Halloween is a 1978 American slasher film directed and scored by John Carpenter, co-written with producer Deborah Hill, and starring Donald Pleasence and Jamie Lee Curtis in her film debut. The plot tells about a mental patient who was committed to a sanitarium for murdering his teenage sister on Halloween night when he was 6 years old. 15 years later, he escapes and returns to his hometown where he stalks a female babysitter and her friends, while under the pursuit of his psychiatrist. Filming took place in Southern California in May 1978 before premiering in October, where it grossed $70 million, becoming one of the most profitable independent films ever made. Halloween spawned a film franchise comprising 11 films and growing, which helped construct an extensive backstory for its antagonist Michael Myers, sometimes narratively diverging entirely from previous installments. A remake was released in 2007, followed by a sequel in 2009. An 11th installment was released in 2018, with the new film Halloween Kills due for release in 2021. For the original movie, it took approximately 10 days to write the screenplay. According to a Fangoria interview with Deborah Hill, the idea was that you couldn't kill evil, and that's how we came up about the story. We went back to the old idea of Samhain, that Halloween was the night where all the souls are let out to wreak havoc on the living, and then came up with the story about the most evil kid who ever lived. And when John came up with his fable of a town with a dark secret, of someone who once lived there, and now that evil has come back, that's what made Halloween work. Many of the script details were drawn from Carpenter's and Hill's own backgrounds. The fictional town of Haddonfield, Illinois, was derived from Haddonfield, New Jersey, where Deborah Hill was raised. Several of the street names were taken from John Carpenter's hometown of Bowling Green, Kentucky. Laurie Strode was the name of one of Carpenter's old girlfriends, while Michael Myers was the name of an English producer who had produced such films as Assault on Precinct 13. Tommy Doyle was named after the character in Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window, and Dr. Loomis was derived from Sam Loomis from Psycho, the boyfriend of Marion Crane. Janet Leigh, who is the real-life mother of Jamie Lee Curtis. Sheriff Lee Brackett shared the name of a Hollywood screenwriter and frequent collaborator of Howard Hawks. Carpenter's inspiration for the evil that Michael embodied came from a visit he had taken during college to a psychiatric institution in Kentucky. There, he visited a ward with his psychology classmates where the most serious mentally ill patients were held. Among those patients was an adolescent boy who possessed a blank, schizophrenic stare. Carpenter's experience inspired the characterization of Michael Myers in the film. Looking at the real-world basis for Michael Myers, Carpenter says a lot of things went into making Michael Myers, including urban legends and real-life psychopaths. Let's take a look at two of those now, starting with Edmund Kemper. Edmund Emil Kemper, born December 18, 1948, is an American serial killer, rapist, cannibal, and necrophile who murdered 10 people, including his paternal grandparents and mother. He is noted for his large size at 6 feet 9 inches, and for his high intellect, possessing an IQ of 145. Kemper was nicknamed the Co-Ed Killer because most of his victims were female college students. Born in California, Kemper had a very disturbed upbringing. He moved to Montana with his abusive mother before returning to California, where he murdered his grandparents when he was 15. He was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic and sentenced to a state hospital for the criminally insane. Released at the age of 21, after convincing psychiatrists he was rehabilitated, Kemper was regarded as non-threatening by his future victims. He targeted young female hitchhikers during his killing spree, luring them into his vehicle and driving them to secluded areas where he would murder them before taking their corpses back home to be decapitated, dismembered, and violated. Kemper then murdered his mother and one of her friends, before turning himself in to the authorities. Found sane and guilty at his trial in 1973, Kemper requested the death penalty. Capital punishment was suspended at the time, and he instead received 8 concurrent life sentences. Since then, Kemper has been imprisoned at the California Medical Facility, where he is noted as a model prisoner. There is an urban legend regarding an adopted boy who was badly mistreated by his parents and resented the sister that received all of their love. One Halloween night, he finally snapped when she was allowed to go trick-or-treating and he wasn't. So he stabbed her to death when she came home and took all of her candy. Then he stabbed his parents. Police found him covered in blood, wearing a Halloween mask and eating the candy on his front porch. He was put in an insane asylum. 13 years later, at age 25, he killed 2 attendants, walked out of the doors of the asylum, and was never seen again. Numerous sightings and claims of murders by steers continue today. This story seems like rather a tall tale. There's no written record of Stanley Steers, making this story very hard to believe. I think we can safely put this one into the category of urban legend or myth. Ronald Clark O'Brien, October 19th, 1944, died March 31st, 1984, was nicknamed the Candyman and the man who killed Halloween. He was convicted of killing his 8-year-old son on Halloween 1974 with a cyanide-laced candy bar that was ostensibly collected during the trick-or-treat outing. He poisoned his son in order to claim life insurance money to ease his own financial troubles, as he was $100,000 in debt. He also gave poison candy to his daughter and 3 other children in an attempt to cover up his crime. However, neither his daughter nor the other children ate the poison candy. He was convicted of capital murder in June 1975 and sentenced to death. He was executed by lethal injection in March 1984. The night before Halloween, in the year 1975, Martha Moxley, 15-year-old girl, left her Connecticut home to attend a Halloween party. In the morning, she was found dead in the backyard, beaten to death. 25 years later, Michael Skakel, who was also 15 at the time of the slaying, was convicted of the murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison. However, he maintained his innocence, and in 2018, the Connecticut Supreme Court vacated his conviction. On Halloween night in 1957, Peter and Betty Fabinho thought that they were finished with the trick-or-treaters for the evening. But in the middle of the night, the doorbell of their Los Angeles home rang. Peter got out of bed and brought candy to the door. On the doorstep was a woman wearing a mask. She raised up her hand and shot him in the chest. He died instantly. According to the LA Times, police arrested a woman named Joan Rebel, who reportedly had a sexual relationship with Peter's wife, Betty. It is believed Rebel talked another woman, Goldine Pizer, into murdering Peter. Rebel was convicted of second-degree murder along with Pizer for 5 years to life in prison. Betty was never tried for any connection in her husband's death. These are some of the inspirations which may have contributed to John Carpenter's invention of one of the most iconic horror characters of our age, The Shape, Michael Myers. Through his contributions to cinema and music, director John Carpenter is part of an elite band of directors who have given us the ghost train ride of our lives and provided a whole genre of pop culture entertainment. With an amazing body of work, director John Carpenter truly is a legend in the horror film community. Thanks for everything, John. We hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. Have a good one and take it easy.